Hi everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Ali Grayman, and let's get to some questions. So the first question I have is it common to have more than one theme for pure OCD? And yes, it is very common. It's not just common for pure OCD, but for really any type of OCD. So what I see most of the time is the person will have a primary theme that is the type of theme that's most scary to them, and then there'll be secondary themes where they don't bother them that much most of the time, but they kind of do from time to time as well. So I see kind of usually the combination of the two. The reason why people have multiple themes is because there are some things that bother us a lot more and some thoughts that we find a lot more disturbing than other thoughts. That kind of creates a hierarchy. And because the brain is doing this to try to protect you, what's happening is it's trying to protect you from the things that you're scared of the most first, or most of the time, and from the other stuff, whenever it gets a chance. But if you're super focused, say, like, usually harm OCD is the one that people are mainly focused on, because, thoughts, what if I killed somebody, or what if I hurt somebody, is usually a lot more worrisome to the person than, say, a thought of, well, maybe I didn't put things in line just right, or something like that, So it doesn't mean that they'll have either or. They'll have probably a combination of both. So if the person is on any given day not worried about what if something happened in the past or something like that, then they'll go to the second, like the brain will go to the secondary OCD. So if you have multiple OCD themes, don't think that it's something abnormal or that it's somehow different. It's not. This is really how OCD goes. If your OCD is stuck on only one topic and you feel like you don't have multiple themes, it's probably because your OCD is very severe. When your OCD is at a 10 out of 10, usually you're only focused on one topic and there's simply not enough room in the mind to even kind of focus on another topic. So at 10 out of 10, usually it's just one topic. And then as it goes a little bit lower, there's a vacuum that gets created in the mind, and then it lowers, it gives room for the other thought to come in. So you'll have, say, 80% of the time one thought and 20% of the time another thought. So another comment I commonly get is that letting go of the worries is very scary. And, what can I say? It is very scary. And that's why I say that it is kind of like taking a leap of faith and saying, you know what? I've tried to pay attention. I've tried to seek reassurance. I've tried to figure it out. None of that is working. So, okay, let's try to go the other way now and refuse paying attention. And let's see what happens, right? Because really, 10 out of 10 OCD feels the same for everybody. No matter what kind of OCD thoughts you have, if it's 10 out of 10, to that person who's feeling it, it feels the same. So if it feels the same for everybody, but it doesn't come true for everybody, then you can see just by that it's part of OCD. And what are the chances of you being the first person for whom it will come true? Out of millions of people, you'll be the first one, right? So that's not very likely. So based on that, you can see that it is, even though it feels like you're taking a leap of faith, like you're taking a chance by disregarding the thoughts, you really are not, because there's so many people that are in the same position. So you have that as kind of your reassurance. And another question I commonly get too is, well, when I recover, will I know that all of this was for nothing and all of this was just OCD? Will I get that final reassurance in the end? And yes, that absolutely you will get. But if you start seeking reassurance now out of fear, you're going to drive yourself deeper in. So it's not the same thing as getting reassurance now versus getting reassurance overall later when you get over OCD fully. So yes, it feels scary. Yes, it feels real. But no, you don't have to react. You don't have to pay attention to it. And, I promise you that nothing is going to happen because you're not paying attention. It's not going to blow up in your face and you won't find out later that it's true or anything like that. Because those are the common fears for people who have OCD, and it never comes true, So, but the more you pay attention, the worse you will feel. And the more severe OCD will get overall. So it's taking the leap of faith, refusing giving it any energy at all. So another question I have, could you go into more detail about the needing to confess or having to tell someone every little thing, the symptoms of OCD? So yeah, the needing to confess is also very, very common. And the problem with this is that you're confessing something that doesn't need to be confessed, okay? And the more you feel like you have to explain it in detail, the more you will feel like continuing to do that. So it won't ever feel like it's enough. And as soon as you feel like, okay, I've explained it just right, it will slightly switch and you feel like, oh, well, no, I didn't say it exactly right, or I missed out a detail or something like that. And then we'll just continue to loop endlessly. So by saying, okay, I'm not playing this game anymore, it clearly is not working, you will have your anxiety at first go up because you are refusing and your brain wants you to react, right? So as you refuse, at first you will feel worse, but after a little bit of time, you will feel better. So it's that need to confess, look at it as exposure, right? You're exposed to the thought, you feel the pull to do reassurance, but what you're going to do is you're doing exposure and response prevention. So you're getting the thought, that's exposure, you're preventing the response, right? The more you prevent the response, the less these thoughts will bother you over time. But right in the moment, it will feel severe for a little while. So just try to refocus the best you can for the next, say, hour after you refuse confessing. So the next question I have is, I have a fear of certain noises and I obsess over them and feel ill when I hear them. And I have to do habits when I do hear them too. I do not know if this is OCD and how to get over it. The emotions the noises trigger are very bad. So you already know that this is your OCD thought. And yes, it is OCD. Now, the problem is not the noises. The problem is your reaction to the noises. So when you are reacting with fear, you're keeping that thought going because your mind says, oh, okay, this is something very dangerous. Let me bring more of that to you. And you basically continue going around and around whenever you're thinking about it, whenever you're getting reassurance on it, like even from yourself, right? Thinking back to the situation, why did I hear it? Did I hear it? All these kinds of things, right? So you want to make sure that you're not reacting to this thought. Anything to do with noises is automatically OCD. You're not reacting anymore to it. So you're not solving, is this noise different from that one, or is the situation different from that one? You're saying that in general, all of this is OCD. I'm not paying attention to this anymore. Because otherwise, you're going to continue to pay attention to this endlessly. You know? And like I said in my previous answers, right? Nothing ever comes true. So there's no point in continuing to torture yourself with this. Anything that has to do with a noise is automatically OCD. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm moving on. And just going about it like that. And I'm telling you, as soon as you start to do that, your anxiety will go up, but then you will start to feel a little bit better. And then over time, as you continue to do the work, a little bit better, but a little bit better, and then you improve until it's fully gone. So the next question that I have is, can you discuss POCD? And honestly, I know that the topic makes it seem very scary. But at the same time, this is not different than any other OCD, than any other harm OCD. You know, it's just another OCD thought. With OCD, it doesn't really matter what the topic of your thoughts is. I know it feels more severe because it is POCD, but it really doesn't make much of a difference. You know, it's just OCD thoughts. The more you pay attention to them, the worse they will be. The less you pay attention to them, the faster they will go away. You know, that's all it is. Because you're a good person, the worst possible thing you could think of would be POCD thoughts, right? And that's why they're getting to you. That is the only reason why you're having these thoughts. But the reason why they keep going is because you keep reacting to them. So you shouldn't react to them. You get the thought, so what? I got a thought. Doesn't mean anything, I'm moving on. And I'm telling you, as soon as you stop the reaction, the thoughts will start to go away. At first, your anxiety will go up though. So you gotta be prepared for that. but they will start to go away, because the only thing that's keeping them there is, as the more you react with fear to them, the more your mind thinks that these thoughts are important, no matter what it is, no matter what kind of theme it is, you know? So the mind thinks it's important, it's bringing it to your attention again because you reacted with so much fear, right? Then you react with fear again, and then it brings them up again, and this continues. I mean, this can continue endlessly. The mind can't stop it. It's working on a pattern. The only way to stop these thoughts is for you to stop reacting. So your attitude about these thoughts should be, I'm getting a thought, this is a typical OCD thought, millions of people who have OCD have these thoughts, it doesn't mean anything, it doesn't mean anything about me personally, it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person, it doesn't mean anything about me, it just means that I have OCD, and I'm not going to react with fear to these thoughts anymore, right? So it doesn't, when you're refusing to react with fear, it doesn't mean that you are somehow accepting these thoughts, or that you're inviting these thoughts. All it means is you're refusing to give unrealistic, unreal thoughts fearful reaction when there doesn't need to be a fearful reaction, right? If a person who doesn't have OCD has a weird thought, they just don't react to it. They're like, that's a crazy thought, and they move on. They don't give this attention to them, right? But when a person who does have OCD have this thought, they start to think, well, what does it mean about me? Well, why would I have this thought? Does this mean I'm a dangerous person? Does this mean this and that? Right? And then they start to fall into this loop, and the brain again starts to react because it sees you reacting with fear. It starts to give you more thoughts, and then you react with fear again, and it starts that loop. So in order to get out of it, doesn't matter. Just like I said in the previous answer, the person was asking about the noises, right? Like hearing sounds. It's the same thing. There's no difference here. I know it feels more severe, but trust me when I say there is really no difference here. It's just the brain that got stuck on a certain thought. So if this thought is about POCD topic, I'm not paying attention to it. I'm not reacting with fear. I don't care about this thought. That should be your attitude. Also with POCD, there's a lot of avoidance that happens because the person thinks, well, you know, what if I'm a dangerous person? I can't, you know, I can't be around children, you know, if I'm having these thoughts and all of this kind of stuff. But again, the more you start to live your life abnormally because of these thoughts, the more your brain views it as relevant, and the more thoughts you're going to have. Millions of people have POCD thoughts when they have OCD. Not one has done anything. So just like we were saying with the other things, right, with the other types of harm, this is really, POCD is just another version of harm OCD, right? There is no difference here. This is all OCD thoughts, but the more you start to cater to OCD by paying attention, by avoiding, by seeking reassurance, the more stronger these thoughts will become. So you want to give them no energy, and as you reduce that energy, it's going to go away. And actually, the question about doing a video on POCD is one that I get really very much. So I don't really usually do videos on this topic just because people do find it very triggering. But at the same time, you know, we do need to talk about it because it's really not different than any other type of OCD. And the more you focus on it being something abnormal, the more you drive the OCD condition where it's really just another type of harm OCD. So next question I have is, do you have any advice on earworms, songs repeating over and over in your mind? It seems like because my mind has been stuck in a loop for many years obsessing, that now I'm disregarding them, the mind still needs something to do. So it just sings lines of songs on a loop endlessly, and they can't seem to let these go. Is it just trapped energy? What I would do in this situation is, whenever you're getting these thoughts, whenever you're getting these songs in your head, just saying, yeah, okay, fine. I'm going to have these thoughts in my head forever. I'm fine with that. Rather than reacting with a lot of fear or just angst to them, that why are they here, I don't want them here, all this stuff. But just saying, Yeah, they can be here forever, for as long as they want. Because as soon as you get rid of that kind of, I don't know if the fear would be the right word, but that state where this is unacceptable, this is horrible, I can't be like that, right? That the more you feel that way, the more your mind will send you these thoughts. So I don't know if you actually have fears towards these thoughts being there. If you do, then yeah, that's definitely why they're there. If not, I would still say, try to kind of pretend almost like they're not there. And because if you're not giving it energy, they will start to go away. That's 100% for sure, because your mind doesn't keep useless information around. So if you're not reacting to a thought as something dangerous, there's no reason to keep it around. So it is going to go away, but it's just a reaction. There should be no reaction to these thoughts. So next question I have, could you talk a little bit about headaches and does OCD cause them? Well, because your mind is overworked. What's happening is your mind is really, in real world and everyday life, right? It's only meant to process real life situations. It's not meant to process real life situations plus OCD. So you're making your mind work double time most of the time. And over time, it does get overworked. So people get headaches, they get tired, they feel like they need to sleep all the time. All of that is just because you are overstressed. So you do need to basically start doing the work, because until you start doing the work, the OCD thoughts will continue to plague you, and you will be forced to deal with them, right, every day, and then that's going to keep the situation going. So yes, it does cause it, but again, as soon as you start doing the work, as soon as the OCD thoughts will start to go away, all of this will go back to normal. Now, what you can do in the meantime is reduce stress in other areas of your life, because your brain views this stress, OCD stress, and real life stress as all the same thing. It's just one big stress every time, all day long, right? So if while you're working on OCD and that's getting reduced slowly, at the same time, start reducing stress in your regular life as well, as much as possible, to allow your mind to have some room for recovery. So another question I have is about having nightmares, and is that related to OCD as well? I would say if you're having nightmares on the specific topics that you worry about in terms of OCD, then that's very, very common. And the reason why that is because the brain is not fully shutting off. It's still trying to solve OCD thoughts, whether you are asleep or awake, right? And it's that unsolved, unresolved feeling, it gets into your sleep as well and can cause nightmares. If they're not about OCD thoughts, then I would say it's the same. This is the same person that asked the question about the headaches. And I think the two could be connected for you, because if the brain is overworked generally, it's more likely to have disturbed sleep, which can cause nightmares as well. I would suggest for the sleep part, make sure that you're going to bed at a regular time. Make sure you don't have glowing devices in the bed. So any kind of tablet, phone, that should not be in the bed when the lights are off, because it just works really bad with the eye perceiving the light, and it really messes with your natural rhythms. I'm not going to go into a whole thing here, but it really does mess you up. So try not to bring any devices into the bed. Going to bed around 10 would be ideal. Or even earlier if you can do that, because the more rest you get, the better. And not having any stimulating beverages like any coffee, tea, energy drinks before. Really, you shouldn't be having any at all throughout the day, but especially before going to bed, because that's going to disturb your sleep as well. So being very focused that your sleep is of quality, and having a well ventilated room. So opening the windows before you're going to bed, so you get fresh air in the room. The room has to be dark. So all of these things will kind of help you get a better quality sleep, and it will help in terms of OCD recovery as well. And this is a good practice for anybody who has OCD. This is not just for the specific person. Because all of these things, I mean, you're sleeping for at least a third of your life, right? So if not, depending on the person, some half their life, some third of their life, right? So it's very important to get the best sleep possible, because you got to give your brain some help to recover from this. So the next question I have is, Ali, why is it that when I'm around people, I forget about my OCD, but when I'm alone, that it's all in my head? I don't pay attention, no. A year ago, though, when I was around people, I still couldn't get distracted. Is this progress? Yes, it is progress, because what's happening is a year ago, your OCD was so high that even when you were around people, you still had severe OCD thoughts, right? Now you are easily distracted when you are around people, which means OCD is not as severe. But when you are alone with your thoughts, then OCD does have a chance to come through. So whatever you're doing is definitely working. You just have to keep going with it. Do as much exposures as possible, and then prevent the response of fear. So the next question I have is about HOCD. And with HOCD, I mean, the more you pay attention to these thoughts, the more they will feel real. The more you will start to get worried about it. And it's again, I mean, it's just like any other OCD thought. It doesn't really matter if it's HOCD, if it's religious OCD, if it's harm OCD. It doesn't really make a difference. The only thing you need to do is disregard these thoughts. The more you try to go into it and see, well, how do I really feel? Well, am I straight or am I gay? Well, do I like girls or do I not like girls? How does it feel? And all of this stuff. The more you get into it, the worse you will feel about it. So with HOCD, the most important thing is to stop solving it. It's like think of it like you're getting a question from I don't know, like a 2-year-old, right? And the 2-year-old is just blah, 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 right? You don't need to answer to the 2-year-old. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to solve it. You can leave the question just as in the part of OCD. Like, yeah, OCD is telling me things again. Yeah, I don't have to reply to it. Do you know what I mean? Because the more you reply, the more your brain senses that there's danger here. And the more your brain senses that there's danger here, the more it will bring up this thought. And your brain doesn't care if the thought is about HOCD or any other OCD topic. It doesn't even understand it. All it understands that to this type of signal, you are reacting with fear. If you are reacting with fear, that means that you are in danger. And if you're in danger, it needs to send you more of these thoughts in order to protect, right? So what you need to do is try as much as you possibly can. And again, just like you were saying, sometimes you succeed, sometimes you fail, but you have to keep trying and trying to succeed more this time than you did the last time. So you're always trying to kind of beat yourself at your own game in terms of, improvement in your recovery, right? So maybe shortening the time from when you started, if you did start to react, right? From when you started to react to when you said, okay, no more, I'm not reacting, right? So always showing your mind that you are not as fearful of the situation as you were, say, even like a week ago, right? But the worst thing you can do, I'm telling you, is any kind of research on this topic. Really, HOCD topic is off limits to you, So you're not researching it, you're not trying to figure it out, you're not solving it, you're not the solving. That's really what's getting people into the HOCD, and it's hard to kind of come out of it. So, but again, as soon as you stop doing that, as soon as you stop powering up these thoughts, they will go away on their own, but you have to stop powering them up in order for that to happen. In terms of exposures for HOCD, you're already getting thoughts 24 hours a day. So the thoughts themselves are the exposures. So when we're talking about ERP, you're already dealing with exposures, but you're not preventing the response as well as you could be because you're getting scared. Right? So the exposure is the thought, like what if I'm gay, right? And then the response prevention is not saying, oh my God, I have to figure it out, I have to solve it. Instead, what you want to do is say, yep, that's my OCD thought. There it is again for a millionth time, not paying attention. See, this doesn't create a response of fear, and your brain doesn't see the danger. And because your brain doesn't see the danger, your brain moves on. You don't get any more thoughts. right? That happens over time. It's not instant, right? But the anxiety does happen. But because you were saying, that it's hard to deal with all of the anxiety, and of course it is hard to deal with it. But it's just trying to do the best you can every moment, So because you will see, this is the thing, is you will never solve it to an extent where your brain will be like, okay, fine, I can move on because you solved it. It's just not going to happen. So the only way to get out of it is to refuse to pay any more attention to it. But yeah, HOCD is very, very common. And I can tell you, out of anybody I've ever talked to about HOCD, not to give you kind of reassurance, but nobody actually turned out to be gay. So it's not one of those things that actually happens. It's just, again, it's just another way OCD tries to get you. And you will see that as you start to let go of these thoughts, as you stop paying attention to these thoughts, that what's normal for you, the attraction of, like a heterosexual attraction, right? It's gonna come back. Because right now you're so focused on the whole OCD thing that your mind is totally in an OCD space, and your mind is totally confused. So as you pull out of it, you will see that, everything is normalizing and getting better. And you will get that, just like I was saying, right, that you will get that reassurance in the end, that, everything was fine, there was no reason to worry, all of this stuff, So it's not that you can't get reassurance, it's just that you can't get reassurance through fear, through anxiety, through solving it. Because that way you won't get enough reassurance. It will never be enough. So you have to let go, and then you will get the reassurance. So I hope this helps. Thank you guys, and we're coming to the end of the show. If you have any more questions, please let me know. If I missed yours this week, I will answer next week. If you need more information, you can always visit youhaveocd.com. There's a private recovery program there with me. There's ebooks, there's free articles, there's lots of information on the website, how to get over OCD. There's also a lot of information on this channel. If you haven't subscribed to it, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.